topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello, and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. My name is Bahia Yaksan. I am a diversity educator and trainer and a core alignment coach, which means I support agencies, organizations, and individuals in aligning their actions with their values, particularly towards identifying patterns of bias that create harm towards others, which ultimately hurts everyone, and to instead cultivate new pathways that create more belonging and more inclusion in more equitable ways, which really increases satisfaction and happiness for everyone ultimately. If you're interested in seeing samples of how I work, you can check out my website at knowwhatyouwantcoaching.wordpress.com. So today's show is entitled Building Hope to End Hopelessness. I'm super excited. We have two guests today, and Richard Kane and Melody Lewis Kane. If you want to come on out, I would like to read your bios, but I love people to be able to see who you are, those who are watching, as I'm reading your bios. Richard Kane and Melody Lewis Kane are partners in a documentary film production company, Kane-Lewis Productions, on the coast of Maine since 1988. Richard Kane is an Emmy-nominated film director, now directing the film Building Hope about homelessness in Maine, which is amazing. I've got to preview it. We will talk about that one in a little bit. It's a microcosm of homelessness in the United States, being released in September 2024. Partner Melody Lewis Kane was the real force behind the production Building Hope. She co-produces all their films and interviews their subjects. Richard shoots, directs, and edits. Their previous film, Truth Tellers, is a portrait of the artist Robert Shetterly and his project, Americans Who Tell the Truth. I can tell you that is a fabulous film and a fabulous project. The Truth Tellers documentary is being distributed across the U.S. by American Public Television and has been broadcast by 320 PBS affiliates to date. It's being educationally distributed by Bullfrog Films and was recently nominated for an Emmy. Well deserved. Their series of 24 films on art subjects include I Know a Man, Ashley Bryan, which screened at 15 international festivals, winning the Hector Leonardo Award at the Hamptons Doc Fest. The documentary Ember's Left Hand won 4 Best Film Audience Awards at the 25 festivals screened. David Driscoll, In Search of the Creative Truth, won the Shaw Prize for Best Film on Maine Public in 2015 and is included in one of Sam Pollard's newest films, Black Art in the Absence of Light, which streamed on Max. Their film MC Richards, The Fire Within, is a classic in the art and creativity genre. Richard won a Cine Golden Eagle for Faces of Microedit, produced Technology, Renewing the American Dream, narrated by President Clinton. His film Tough, Pretty, or Smart won Best Short Documentary at the Cork Film Festival and was shortlisted for an Academy Award. See www.kanelewis.com if you want to check out their beautiful website. Melody, in addition to producing Kane-Lewis films, is a potter and arts educator. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Bahia. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you again, yes.
It's wonderful to see you. And I've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time. I'm so glad we got this pinned down. And there is so much to say about the unbelievable, to me, unbelievable number of excellent documentaries and films that you two have produced over the years. Everyone I've seen is just masterful. So, and I also want to just share that you two are just incredible community members, encouraging, inspiring other artists and aspiring filmmakers, and have done a lot to educate young artists. So that is also very notable and greatly appreciated.
Well, being mentors and having mentors is so important in one's life and ability to, improve on what you do. So we've had many mentors, and we can talk about other things, but I thought that mentorships was so important.
Well, one of the things about mentorship, when you're explaining something to someone, you have to really think about how you do something and articulate it well. So it's actually a learning process for me too. When I'm teaching someone to throw on the wheel, for instance, I really have to break down exactly what I do and communicate that effectively. So it's a two-way street.
And it was actually thinking about this as we last night we premiered a film called Carla and His Merry Band of Artists, and as Melody and I were driving back a few hours ago, we were talking about what an opportunity this is with the invitation that you've given us to think about, what we've been doing for the past 25 years or so, and, figure out, okay, well,
why do we do it?
Why do we do it? What was good about those years? What was not? But mentoring is one of the top things. And what I'm getting to the end of my career, I don't know how long Melody will be going on, but I'm getting towards the end, thinking about retirement.
To play more golf.
To play more golf. That's right. or to swim, or to play my saxophone, or there are a lot of things, or read more. But we've been involved in a series of films since 1999 called Maine Masters, which we started working on with Robert Shetterly. We talked about him, and he's been on your show. So that's Maine Masters, and that's through an organization called the Union of Maine Visual Artists. That and I've been producing those films, and about 20 of them since 2000 or so. And so I'm thinking now at this point, well, what's going to happen to this series when I'm not making films anymore? And I'd love for them to continue. So I'm kind of looking around for, other young filmmakers who might be interested in carrying on the series. And there are a few out there. And it might be several, it might be one. It's hard to know at this point, and I do have a couple more, left in me, but that's about it, I think.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about when we were discussing this in the car is that the Maine Masters, for the most part, those first 20 or so films were about the life of an artist, about the artist, their work, and their life. Yeah. The last two films that Truth Tellers and Building Hope, Carlo is about the artist, but Truth Tellers and Building Hope are more about social issues. And from my perspective, the art is certainly important, but from my perspective, this is what we can do best. This is how we can begin to make a difference in things, is by approaching social issues. So there's a little bit of a leap there and a change in between those two films and the previous films.
Right. So where do you want to go from here, Bahia? I mean,
well, first, adding to what Melody just said, perhaps you can produce more than two more for us, Richard, with Melody. I don't think she's finished. Anyway, where I would like to
matter of fact, I must say that I would like to become a potter. And in the last few months, I've actually, for the first time in our 50-ish year relationship, I started taking advantage of having a great teacher in the studio. That's right wonderful. Next door, right over there, and
how fortunate.
And she's taught me, it's simple but beautiful pottery, and so it's something that I'm looking forward to, that and playing the saxophone. But making films what's wonderful about it is that I love the process. I love sitting in front of the computer, editing, and putting in a piece of music and breaking down, crying from the emotional impact that music can have in a film. And just those are cathartic moments that, you can't really, I don't know if I can do without that. So I might make more films. I don't know. But there's lots of things to do in this world, and there's a lot of needs. And that's in large part why we have made those last two films that Melody mentioned, Building Hope and Truth Tellers, because we wanted to make a difference and influence the direction of the world, because it's a dangerous place, and we want to make more happiness for people, Carlo and His Merry Band of Artists is the film that premiered last night at the Maine International Film Festival. And we had a group of 6 people on a panel afterwards on the stage at the Waterville Opera House. And all these people were founders of this organization that I mentioned before, the Union of Maine Visual Artists. And that's really about community. And that's who Carlo Pittori was. He was a man who really wanted to create a community of artists because he loved art and he loved artists.
And he also wanted artists to be involved politically.
Right. So he was an activist. But going back to the beginning of his career, he went to Tufts University, and he had some pain in his life he talks about. And he remembered that back in high school, he really loved art and got a lot of pleasure from it. So he decided to go to Italy, actually for the first time, and bring his palette and his easel with him to learn to be an artist. And his name was Charles Stanley, and he was born on Long Island, New York, as a Jewish kid. And he went to Italy, and all the kids, his name was Charles Stanley, all the kids would run after him and call, Carlo, Carlo. His name was Charles. And he was a painter. So they said, Pittore, Pittore. So, excuse my finger.
Yeah, it's right in the middle.
So it was Carlo. So he loved the idea of the name, taking on the name Carlo Pittori. So you got this Jewish kid from Long Island transforming himself into an Italian painter in Maine. And it was just a wonderful transformation. And
that sounds interesting. I'd love to. Can we show the trailer of that right now, of Carla right now?
Yeah, let's do that. And here we go.
He was a real rebel. He really danced to the beat of his own drum. And that's why I think he's so original. I now understand more than ever why he was just so fed up with the contemporary art world. Because it feels like it has no integrity sometimes. It's just about fashion.
The key word of the work is eros. It is about the body. It is about the flesh. It is about the capacity of the body for pleasure. And what I love about the work is their investment in female bodies that transcend the narrow confines of what society determines as, conventionally beautiful. So there really is a love of plenitude and flesh.
In the middle of it all, there's Carlo, and he has these little calling cards, and the calling cards have a picture of himself tooting his own horn, and he's passing them out to everybody. And I just thought, what a beautiful commentary on that whole scene. And I suddenly realized that he was a deep clown. He was a beautiful clown, but a deep one. I came to love him for all that, for just that kind of exuberance about art, about food, about his friends, about love, about everything.
Well, if we were going to call you Charles, we would be psychoanalyzing. And if we're going to call you Carlo, we're going to be singing and dancing.
Beautiful.
We probably should have told you that there was some nudity in it, right? I hope no one.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
art.
how was it? How was the reception at the premiere?
It was really good, really good.
Yeah.
It's up for the Tourmaline Prize. All these festivals have prizes, and so the Tourmaline Prize. The tourmaline is a gem that's
Yes.
found in great amounts in Maine, and so it's for the best film in Maine of the year. And so there are 3 films up for the prize, and we have a 33 1/3% chance.
Wow.
The same chance we had.
With the Emmys.
The same chance we had for winning an Emmy. We were just nominated, but we lost to a film about, in part, about Mick Jagger. So, it's hard to compete.
Yeah, and sometimes it just depends on what else is made that year, right? What you're up against.
Exactly. But the film, if we can take a step back, we prior to that, since 1999, we were working with Robert Shetterly, who we recall that you've interviewed before, the man who's created the series called Americans Who Tell the Truth, people who, his models of courageous citizenship, people who believe in the founding ideals of this country, of equality and justice, and
that are a continued struggle to realize.
Right,
Yes.
more so
It's
now
so
than ever, and so we felt that making a film about truth tellers was so important to kind of battle against the lies that we hear every day in politics.
Mhm.
So we created this project called Truth Tellers, and it's been received really, really well and distributed across the country quite well, and we hope that it'll make a difference.
Well, it's interesting because my work in clay, my clay mentor in undergraduate school said to me one time, and this was after I met Dick and started doing a little work with him. He said, if I had to do it all over again, because his theory was good art creates emotion, good art makes people cry. And he said, if I had to do it over again, it would be film, because you can get it out to more people. It can be out. And I remember when we showed part of MC Richards' film at her memorial service, and there she was, big and live on the screen, dancing and laughing. And it just brought her back for people. So the media of film, with its with its pictures, with its sound, and with its emotion, can be very effective.
And with this Carlo and his merry band of artists, back in 2009, when we first learned about some footage that was shot by his student, Matt Ruskin, he allowed us to use this footage, and we cut together like a 5-minute piece for a fundraiser for an auction of auctioning off Carlo's work. Carlo died in 2005, so I had actually never met him. And so we played this 5-minute film, and a number of young people went running out of the screening room sobbing, at which point I realized that we were onto something. So, and it took so many years to make that film. It took 10 years to make a film on MC Richards, and
a lot of it is raising the funds.
Yeah,
you've got to have funds in order to do it.
right.
I was going to ask, what is it that takes most time?
Fundraising.
Yeah, the fundraising.
Yeah.
But it's such a beautiful experience in that film that Melody's talking about, MC Richards, The Fire Within. There was a moment in the film where, who was it? And what was he? He was playing Ray Charles. Oh, Ray Charles, America,
yeah.
the Beautiful, right?
And this is a Down's syndrome person.
Right, playing the piano. And it was fabulous. And we see the people who lived in the biodynamic agricultural community where MC lived and taught the developmentally disabled. And he was
digging carrots.
Ben was digging carrots with a pitchfork, and he would put the pitchfork into the earth, and it was like cutting right into your soul, hearing America beautiful from the voice of this developmentally disabled young man, and whose fingers were so contorted, but he was playing it so with such heart.
And this is the advantage of how we work our documentaries. We don't script it. We were walking around and heard him start playing and just walked in. So it's a spontaneous, and the real work comes in the editing, weaving that all together in a story. What we have.
Well, that's interesting to hear, because since I have seen several of your films, that explains why it's so like fresh and real and alive. I'm always just so touched by the interviews, but I'll ask you more about that a little bit later, because I wanted to see if you want to show the truth tellers now.
Yeah, let's do that.
The trailer.
Yeah. Get ready.
Listen up.
In the Americans Who Tell the Truth portrait series, I was thinking about using art as therapy. I was very angry about where this country was going as we were being led into another war that didn't need to be fought. And I thought, what can I do? The earth is in charge, the cosmos is in charge, nature's in charge. We are. Thank goodness our attempts at genocide of Native people were not successful.
And when you see us as humans, we can better advocate for our rights to clean air and water.
Listen, there are other ways to make money. This is not only about equality, it's about existence.
If y'all just witnessed something amazing, I want you to say, yeah! Yeah! All right, can you hear that, world? Yeah!
And these young people are the moral leaders of our time.
And unless millions of students are not coming to see themselves as activists for climate justice, then we're doomed.
Today, we make a change!
Why was that so scary?
It was really just me trying to change something in my own backyard, right?
Courage is about the belief that there is something greater than your fear. It is about staring down fear and having faith that we can make a better world.
I tasted the bitter fruits of segregation and I didn't like it. I got in trouble. It was good trouble, necessary trouble.
That's how we know who we are, by knowing these stories, identifying with these people, because that's where the best of this country is.
It makes me cry.
Oh, that is so powerful. Yeah, that is so. It does just pulls the heart and brings out tears.
Yep, I got them.
Gives me the shivers, the goosebumps on my legs.
Yeah.
You should have said a film by Richard Kane and Melody Lewis Kane, but I don't know.
Can't do it all.
About Robert Shetterly's project, Americans Who Tell the Truth. Oh my gosh, thank you for capturing that. That's incredible. I want everybody in the world to see that.
Yeah, he's blaming us for making him busier than he ever wanted to be, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. What is he, 76 years old?
I don't know.
Something like
76 years young.
Yeah, right. He's getting tired.
I bet. And the world needs him.
That's right. That's right.
The wonderful thing about that is that Rob is a longtime friend. He lives just across the river. So it's just really easy access. And that quote from the last quote there was from the last interview that I did with him. And Rob never really likes to talk about himself. And we got there and I said, Rob, I'm going to get in deep. And he kind of laughed. And I said, I am. He said, okay. And it's because I think of our friendship, his trust in us, that we were able to get that deep stuff. And that's so important.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you my question that's been burning inside me. Well, there's two. One is the driving force behind the next trailer we'll show in a few minutes on building hope to end homelessness. But I also know that Melody, you're the interviewer, and so my second burning question is, how much time do you invest in getting to know people? Because it seems like looking at the interviewees, they trust you, and I'm just amazed how much they share and how, like, from the bottom of their heart it is, how honest and the safe people seem to feel answering your questions. So just tell us which one you want to answer first, but I'm so curious about your interview process. Is spectacular.
I think, first of all, there's usually just 3 of us. Sometimes there's just 2 of us if Jacob's not around to be the grip and sound.
Jacob's our son,
yeah,
who works with us as well.
And so just 3 people. It's not a big crew with a huge camera. We're not, and we approach them and say, this is what we're doing. We're trying to advocate for you. We're trying to, put your face on, let people see you and understand and hear your stories. People want to tell stories. They want to tell their stories. And lots of times people say, well, what can I do for a homeless person? Sometimes it's as easy as listening to their story. But it's really interesting because we were down in Portland filming the new shelter and it's a fabulous new shelter that's built there. And there was one gentleman, he said, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want, we said, okay, we don't. But he ran around telling other people to be quiet and putting up signs, because someone said they're trying to help us, So I think if you let people know that you just want to hear their story and that we're there to try to help their situation. And so we didn't really spend time with these people ahead of time. Now, some of them we interviewed a couple of times, but and we went to different places and they were familiar with us, but the initial interview was just cold.
Well, however, we've gotten entree to meet people from, let's say, if it was a shelter, the director of the shelter would say, we have this film crew coming, and who would be interested in being interviewed? And
explain to them that what we're trying to do.
So it was actually at the Bangor Homeless Services Center, is that the name of it? Bangor Area Shelter. That Jacob and I, we were just the 2 of us. Melody wasn't there, and Jacob and I walked into the it's like a dining room, but that's like their entrance, and everybody's sitting around preparing, getting ready to eat, and there was one person who had a computer in front of them and a book. And we said, that's the guy we want to interview. And his name was James. And we've become good friends with this person who was actually incarcerated for 25 years. I was just blown away with how long he had spent behind bars.
And holds no ill will about it.
He's one of the kindest, gentlest people that I know. And so we sat down and Jacob held up the microphone and I interviewed from behind the camera. And you edit. So you shoot a lot and then you pick out the
pieces.
The pieces that are most meaningful.
What would you say is the shooting ratio, Dick?
I don't know, 60, 80, 100 to 1. I've never really counted.
But it's high.
That's a lot.
Because we have to shoot a lot in order to find the gems.
And it takes a lot of time. It takes months to edit these. And building hope. We were approached by a fellow named Gil Tenney, who is now 83 or so, and
a couple of years ago.
Yeah, maybe more than that. I think he first approached us maybe 5 years ago. And we basically, put it off. And
in the middle of other things.
Yeah, we were involved in Truth Tellers and we just couldn't take anything else on. And, but it was Melody who really said, we really need to do this project. And so Gil, opened the door. He wanted to make a film about one individual who he was enamored with.
The director of Home, a homeless shelter.
Oh, yeah.
Home workers organized for more employment. Home workers organized for more employment.
And it's been around since the late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I'm familiar.
it's no longer, really about more employment, although, it's become a real shelter because of the need. There's so many people who are homeless, in large part because of the lack of affordable housing and the lack of services. So, and that's what people need. First of all, people need first a home. Housing first is the concept, and you get people into housing, and they feel dignified by being in the safety of their own home.
They have an address so they can get a job.
Right.
You can't get a job or a driver's license without an address.
And imagine coming out of prison, after 25 years
with $50.
Well, he actually had, I think, around $10,000. You actually earn income behind bars, but after 25 years having $10,000, you don't earn much. But he had to spend that money. It was in the pandemic that he had to spend money burying several members of his family and an uncle and a sister. And such heartbreaking stories. This was a really difficult film to make, in large part because it was the stories were so heartbreking. So
and James is the one who got another job at Chipotle, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. What a wonderful human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Melody.
We actually had him come out. We brought him out for the premiere at the UU Church. There's been one premiere, and he was on the panel.
Oh, that's very good.
And we check.
And we sent him a check.
And
he said, "Oh, I don't need money."
Right. And I actually just got a text from him, 10 minutes ago saying, "I got your check. Thank you so much for supporting me." All that. And we got him a job actually painting somebody's deck. But anyway, so he's become a member of the family in a way, but he doesn't drive. So it's people, if you don't have a car
in rural,
and a driver's license, and
and there is not much in the way of public transportation.
Right, in rural areas.
Yeah. So
that's
you were interested in why I wanted to do this film.
Yes.
My childhood and growing up years, we could have been homeless at any moment. My father was an alcoholic, and when he worked, he was great, but when he fell off the wagon, and so we never kind of knew sometimes from month to month if we were going to be evicted. There was a lot of food insecurity. We would get the Department of Agriculture extra food, peanut butter and cheese and butter and whatever, Spam. And so I knew how I was never actually homeless, but on the verge of it, realizing that if you don't have mental health issues, just go through the crisis of becoming homeless and you will have some mental health issues.
So well put.
So for me, this was a way to give back, because I had mentors along the way who believed in me. And because of those mentors, I graduated high school. I have 2 college degrees. All along the way, people were encouraging me, pushing me. So it was this is my way of kind of giving back, because I felt that with this film, we first of all wanted to put a face on these people, hear their stories, understand that this can happen to almost anybody.
Right.
And then the other part of the film, the solutions, what's being done, what needs to be done, who are the people with the boots on the ground working in the field, who are just incredible people. I don't know how they do it day in and day out, but they do. And we are so grateful for them. So that was the reason why I said to Dick, we really need to jump in and do this.
And we did.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
You want to show the trailer?
Yes, and then I'll ask more questions about it.
How's this place to live?
Well, it's freezing, and apparently they're kicking us out on December 15th. And I'd just like to know how people can keep the homeless out of being homeless.
My son has substance use addiction, and he's walked these very streets, homeless and cold.
The sweeps make no sense at all. But the solution is not to just tear them down, bulldoze them, and assume everything's going to be okay then.
Where are people going to go from here today?
Into another encampment.
And all of a sudden not have a place to live. And none of your friends and family. And I'm all alone.
People who are going to die because of the stress of long-term homelessness, if they go past 1 year in housing and they start to get treatment for all those things that they've ignored for years, we watch people actually stay well for much longer.
We have in Maine, for example, asylum seekers who aren't allowed to work. I mean, that's just crazy.
That's our ultimate goal. It's to get folks on a path to self-sufficiency, whatever that self-sufficiency looks like.
What does it cost for one person to be on the streets? That added up to $20,000 for Utah. So Utah went to developers and they said, what would it cost us to house them? Use the housing first model. And for 5 years, they reduced homelessness by 93%. New leadership came in and said, we're not going to coddle them anymore. They need to be self-sufficient. And now Utah is spending millions because people are on the streets.
We used to rehouse 30 households a month. Now we're lucky if we rehouse 2 households a month.
We're right on the precipice of having unsheltered homelessness become the norm.
When I first got to that shelter, it was the scariest day of my life.
We have to get back to being true neighbors to one another.
It is coming soon. September 19th, we're having our first screening at the Alamo Theater in Bucksport, Maine. We actually did have a preview, a couple of previews, and standing ovation and applause, so much applause. Actually, we finished the film with the music by Noel Stookey.
And lyrics in these times.
Noel Stookey from Peter, Paul, and Mary. He was the Noel Paul Stookey. And he generously gave us this song to use in these times. And it ends the film. It's just
It's so
perfect.
appropriate. It's so appropriate. But because of the standing ovations during the credits, we couldn't hear it.
Couldn't hear it.
Well, if you can't hear it, that's the best reason to not hear it,
That's
right? It is so moving, and I loved what you underscored in the film. And my daughter and my niece and nephew have worked here with a collaboration of churches, our synagogue, and a mosque to be resourceful to people who are stuck out on the street. And we know many of them have suffered domestic violence or veterans, which is incredible shame. People fleeing for violence, people neglected by government who served our countries. So I love that so those young people have educated me a lot, and have been involved. And there were a lot of good efforts in where I live. And I just feel like it would be so great. Your film is so powerful. I thought, wow, could we make that here? But it's true, it's universal. I mean, what you represent, you represent all the issues that are across the US and people who are unhoused, homeless, and but I just feel like it really is motivational, and the like you said, the workers, the boots on the ground are so inspiring, and the dedication and the love. And
well, it's going to go out free to anybody once we start releasing it.
Great.
We're not charging anything for anybody, unless somebody wants us to come and talk, then we need an honorarium and some travel or whatever. But the film itself will go out free. And we're also working on editing a 30-minute version for organizations, because it's felt that that might be a little easier for them to watch. And then there'll be a short trailer that we will try to get out to theaters to use as a trailer ahead of time, and then the information on how to access the film.
That's so important. I'm already talking to people in my city about when and where can we show this. We need a public venue, a public viewing. That's so powerful. And I love that you totally emphasize the housing first issue, and how, like, as a starting point, because cities have been grappling for so long and not getting that concept. It's just so great you're spreading the information that is the starting place for
It's the
communities
starting,
who've not.
it's the starting place. But you can't have cities just building tiny homes and sticking people in them without any support services. They've got to have nearby support services to help them to help them learn how to use a bank account, to help them get a driver's license, to help them with mental health or substance use issues. Without those services being available, readily available, and usually it's a navigator that works with them, a person who works with them, who helps them get the things they need, but they need to be readily available.
But speaking of mentors, one of the people that we've learned so much from about the issues around the unhoused is a guy named Cullen Ryan, who is the director of Community Housing of Maine. And he's been in the field for 35 years. He still looks very young. He was in the trailer talking about a fellow who he saw was homeless for like 17 years. And then he was housed for like 1 year. And all of a sudden, like a lot of his
ailments were gone.
Ailments were gone, just washed away. But it's really being housed, being in the dignity of having your own home. And that couple that you saw, that when he said it was the scariest moment of his life when he went into the shelter. And at the end of that interview, his wife, who's blind, who's sitting next to him in that interview, said, "We have each other and we have love."
And they're in an apartment
It's wonderful.
now. They're in an apartment, and they're just, yeah.
And the woman at the beginning of the film, her name is Aneva. As Melody said, it could happen to anyone. She has 2 college degrees, 2 undergraduate degrees, and she was a preschool teacher, and so articulate.
Pandemic came. She lost her job.
The pandemic really has thrown the whole world into a frenzy. We used to see people all the time and have a real community, and then the pandemic came, and everybody shut themselves in.
Well, and some people died.
Yeah, a lot of people died. More than 1 million people in this country.
Yeah.
So it's community that's so important, to bring people together, to console each other, to learn from each other, to love each other. To work together towards a important goal, and this is an important one. Getting people housed, and the solutions are there. They're really there. We just need the will,
the political will,
to make it happen.
So that the resources are there.
And Angus King is the senator who we interviewed, that you see in the trailer, and he's working. He's working at it. He's working to. Find incentives for developers to develop low-income housing.
He also is putting forth a bill right now. An asylum seeker has to wait 6 months before they can work. So they're taking up a shelter bed. And these people are usually, a lot of them are educated, they have skills. So he's trying to get a bill through that will reduce that to 30 days. Because once you open up those, for instance, in Portland, they also built a shelter for asylums, the same contractor that built. And once they moved people out of the shelter into that one, that opened up more beds for people on the street.
Absolutely. And so many of them they're ready to work. They're wanting to work. They're hungry for work.
Absolutely.
And some don't. And some are, need more and more help. But help ought to be there for them, to get them, to get their lives kind of back together again, and get them connected with other people in the community or their families. And
as Rachel Talbot Ross, the Speaker of the House, told us in her interview, these are human beings, and they deserve respect and dignity.
And she has lived experience.
She has lived experience also.
Speaker of the House. She, her family didn't know whether they would have, the rent or food to put on the table. What do they pay for first?
Well, I wanted to thank Melody again for sharing what you said, because I think one reason this film will speak to so many people is we don't even know how many people have had that scare and that fear of almost could be, in addition to the people who are homeless or have been homeless. It touches more Americans than we speak of. So
Absolutely.
really appreciate you sharing that. And I have to say, we only have 4 minutes left. I can't believe how the time has flown by. And I want to ask you one more question before I give you your closing thoughts, couple of minutes. So I'm starting to ask this question to all my guests at this point in time, thinking about the state of America and the upcoming elections. I just like to ask people, what kind of America do you want?
I want the kind of America that will shelter people, that will have security from birth to grave, and that care about people, and that we get rid of all the hate and the divisiveness.
And honor the truth.
Honor the truth. Honor
And
the truth.
it's unbelievable how many lies are swimming around, and it's and we need to believe in the founding ideals of this democracy, and believe in democracy,
Freedom and justice for all, liberty and justice for all.
and
you know?
and a free press. I mean, it's social media that's really been had a devastating impact, and the proliferation of guns. Oh my Lord. We just met a fellow from Rwanda this morning, sitting at a table, having breakfast with him, a fellow from Rwanda. And we talked about, oh my, how in America, there are more guns than people. And I said, how many guns are there? Are people allowed to have in Rwanda? And he went like this.
None.
0. So
yeah.
Now, many of our problems are so difficult to solve.
Well, and the political will and the money has to be there, and the money is there if we will tax the people that should really be taxed and the corporations that really need to be taxed. The money is there. We just have the political will to ask to get it.
And the division between the poor and the rich, I mean, inequality is just incredible. So there are things that could be done.
That's right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you both answering that question. And now we have a couple minutes for each of you to give a closing thought before we have to wrap up.
Didn't we just give our closing thoughts?
Is that?
No.
You can just...
Go ahead, Mel.
Okay. I guess I am so grateful that we have been able to spend most of our adult life doing what we love to do, and hopefully making a difference along the way. Even with my pottery, when I'm creating it, the love and energy I put in it, when someone uses it, I feel like we're connected. And it's about connection. It's about understanding and listening to people and realizing what they're going through.
I just have a short message, I think, that everybody can do something.
Yeah.
Everybody can do something. You can get out there. You can, don't step over the homeless, engage them, have a conversation.
Buy them a cup of coffee.
Right. Bring them some food, take them out for breakfast. And some of them will reject it, but that's okay. But have compassion.
Empathy and compassion.
Yep.
Reach out, connect. Wow. Thank you both. Didn't mean to cut you off.
And we look forward when you come back to the East Coast for a visit.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I will definitely let you know. Thank you for all your work. Thank you for this time today. Greatly appreciate it. I want to thank all the viewers and listeners and remind people to tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Talk4TV or W4CY.com. And may we all have enriching conversations in diversity this week and envision the kind of country we want.
And our website is Kane-Lewis.com. KANELEWIS.com. We'll see if we can update it so that it's relevant.
We're busy doing other things.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech.